Hi, I'm Seamless, and today I'm going to show you how to make this sound. So, in the previous how to base, I talked about how in Sytrus, when you engage the phaser filter type, that the number of X here, X1, X2, X3, and then Alt 2 and 3 are actually basically just 4 and 5 in this setting, where you have 1 pole, 2 pole, 3 pole, so on and so forth, and then you turn on the flat mode here, and that actually turns into the double. So now it keeps going now, so that's 6 pole all the way up. I'm pretty sure this is 10 pole. And then I figured I would see what happened if I could try and make a sound that used all the phasers in pretty much all the ways. And this is what we came up with. So just to break, I'm going to actually I'm going to show you the core of this by building a new one. I'm going to really run through you the basic of this one first. So here is what the original oscillator sounds like by itself with none of the unison. This is a kind of a distorted looking triangle wave being distorted by, or FM'd by, a slightly askew saw wave. I also mentioned in the previous how to base, and also every time I talk about FM, about how when we talk about digital FM, we have to care about the change in slope of the waveform to indicate how it's actually going to change in pitch. And when you look at a saw wave, it's just one unending change in the unchanging slope. It pretty much becomes the one unending pitch. But then when you do something like this, it actually forces there to be pitch change because we're forcing a change to exist in the slope. This is kind of like we're comboing. It's a little bit like we're comboing a sine wave and a saw wave, but only a little, because an actual sine wave has a pretty big shape difference versus what this little pinchy saw is doing. And it's a little bit like it's just adding really light bend to the thing. Well, to the result of the FM anyway. In this case, it's just kind of, it makes it sort of sharp. You can still hear there being a tinge to it, and that's definitely the snap here doing its work. There was 9 voices in unison that I engaged. And that was all well and good, and insofar as how that sounds, but the whole point of using unison was actually because I'm using unison index mapping on the phaser's position. So filter 1, 2, and 3 are being run in serial, and then the cutoff of filter 1 and 3 are going in the correct direction, rather the linear 1-to-1 direction of the X mod, and then number 2 here is going the opposite direction to give us just a little bit of kind of counteractivity here. And then my automations are so slight, and you'll see why when I rebuild this in a second. It's just a lot of mess. And then also I'm not engaging oversampling. It's actually a pretty significant difference when you do. So here's this guy, right? Let's actually get the sound involved. Big run through delay. It's not very oppressive. And then being compressed to all get out because of what happens to the signal after it gets crushed by this. But the purpose of the oversampling, though, is that these filters and peaks and things are getting shoved up way up above and below Nyquist, kind of a lot, and the tone changes rather dramatically. And the CPU increases all commensurately, kind of a lot. I kept it on the off just because it sounded good while it sounded manageable, but a lot of the breakage that's going to happen is something that can be solved with the oversampling. It just requires somewhat of a CPU oomph. The compression is the OTT style thing, but really, really hard. Like this curve this is like almost everything that's here is going to become audible and to be at this level. And that's what we had to do. And that's again because of crazy over resampling, not what I meant. Over phase cancellation and things like that. So I'm actually just going to do a little bit of this from scratch because attempting to dismantle the original will be a little bit difficult without screwing it up completely. Pattern, please. All right, so let's just do this to a saw wave. We're gonna get ourselves a saw, and we're also gonna get ourselves something we can look at to analyze our frequencies. Yeah. All right, cool. So now let's look at the effect of just the basic phaser filter, right? Yoink, yoink, cherry phaser. Definitely moving that around in the off position for longer than necessary. Anyway, here's your 1 pole. 2 pole. Loud as hell pole. Good stuff there, and it continues on all the way up. I'm going to use this guy to show what I'm going to end up doing, though. when you turn on the flat mode, it increases the number of the outputs, but it's not super clear when I do that. When I do this, rather, after I have done it. So let's actually just use 2 voices so it's clear. Anyway, point is unison index mapping allows you to take a given parameter, like cutoff, and change its value per unison voice. So basically, we have that same 5-pole unison going on, and now there's just 2 of them, and they're in slightly offset positions. They're not offset in motion, but they're all moving in the same direction. They're all tethered to each other, but there's basically 2 of them, and they're in different positions. And you can have it up to 9 going on. And this is what I was doing with the other guy, where I was basically doing a kind of a base, like a long offset, so that like it's the same phaser, but it's spread out. And it acts like that. That is tremendous phase distortion on pretty much the entire spectrum moving in different directions. So it's very easy to lose tonal cohesion out of your harmonic stuff. So the backup of this is like I was gonna go with the light touch in the certain terms of modulation, which is why we ended up with this like really only like up here kind of thing. Despite like because I would come up into here, do one of these, and like no, it's the whole range. Anyway, and then next filter and to turn it on, do the same thing. More phasers, more of the thing, and then also more unison index mapping with different positions, and then maybe moving also in the opposite direction into the next filter, so on and so forth, and then that gets us this guy. That is what started here. This is not even modulating, this is just on. Is the pitch is detuned, which is giving it like a little teensy bit of modulation, but it's mostly just creating a tone for this to screw with. There's no distortion on either any of these dudes. Nope, they're all off. And then it's just the delay, and then the Maximus. The pile of ridiculous, like, let's see if I can do some math here. So that's 10 poles, 9 times 90 poles per one of these. So 270 total, like, phaser poles. That's more than what Vocodex does to stuff. You might have thought to yourself that it sounded a little bit like a vocoder-y kind of thing. And that's because a vocoder, when it splits it all stuff up, it creates the phase results that are similar to this. Not the same, but similar. Which is also why, while it still sounded like the vocoder, it also still kind of sounded usable, even though it was like that particular smoothness is something that's a bit difficult to pull off with a vocoder, but a little bit easier with something that's like a filter designed to do it like a phaser. I also really like this guy. I also didn't expect it to be that cool. So also, a side effect of this all is how touchy the cutoffs are. They're in various positions, and it's just so super trial and error and very arbitrary. Middle filter here is moving in the opposite direction, but like their positions change things. Like we'll just watch. It's pretty easy to get like a wide variety of results out of this, which should be expected because we're clashing together. There's so much stuff. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. I had fun experimenting with so many phaser peaks. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.